देखते रहते हैं बहुत जगह आते रहते हैं सब ठीक ठाक है स्वास्थ्य ठीक ठाक है माइक्रोस्कोपिक कम्युनिटी
I would request the presentation of plants. First of all, to Dr. Karan Singh, to Sri Sanjay Sharan by our Executive Secretary will be Sri A.K. Merchant, Sri Ravi Malekar, Sri Bindeshwar Pathak, Global Socio Economic Foundation. The shlok goes like this: I am Nijo Parova iti Ganana Labchet Sam Udar Chartanam tu Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. This is mine, that belongs to you, is the consideration of small minds. Large-hearted persons regard the world as a family. Following from this lofty vision, the aims and objects of the trust were adopted, including promotion of international brotherhood and peace. Today's event is on World Peace and Unity, India's cultural heritage. We have organized 2 events earlier on circular economy and towards better governance. This is our 3rd event. This event coincides with India's leadership of G20 and the recent visit of the Japanese Prime Minister Mr. Kishida. India's cultural heritage emphasizes global peace and harmony. So does our NGO. India does not discriminate between men and men or between men and women. None, not even the transgenders. The preamble to our constitution, adopted on 26th November 1949, talks of justice, liberty and equality. So be it. We were fortunate in Dr. Karan Singh consenting to be our chief patron. We could not think of any better person than him to be our chief counsel, chief mentor, and to inaugurate the round table. Sri Sanjay Sharan, our erudite scholar, speaks on the relevance of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the present context. We have 2 other eminent speakers in Mr. Merchant and the Rabi. I would request them to take a few minutes each to speak on world peace and unity and harmony, particularly at the time of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Today is the beginning of the Samvat 2080. My special greetings and good wishes for the new year. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukham bhavet. Today is also the Punyatithi, the day of hanging of Sardar Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru. We bow in respect to each one of them. Now I request Dr. Karan Singh to inaugurate and share his views with us.
MC Gupta, whom I have known for many years as a very distinguished administrator and someone who has a real interest in the issue that we are going to discuss. My fellow panelists, many of whom have worked with me for a long time, and friends. It is always a good beginning when a new think tank is born. Delhi already has a lot of think tanks, and one more now we've added to it, thanks to Shri M.C. Gupta. There's a lot to think about, I must say, because we are living in very strange and troubled times, when the past is disappearing and the future refuses to be born, and we find ourselves precariously poised between a disappearing past and an indeterminate future. Old structures are breaking down, whether they are family structures or international regional structures. And therefore we now find ourselves in a very interesting situation. Because when there is a lot of change, that is the time when one can make some positive steps forward. I'm going to start my talk with some rather negative thoughts, I must tell you. World peace and unity is the object of what we're saying. We are going in the opposite direction. We never thought that there would be a war in Europe again after the Second World War. And lo and behold, in Europe, which has been preaching to the rest of the world how they should behave, what should happen, they themselves are embroiled in a seemingly endless war. It's a terrible situation. I remember I lived through the Second World War. I was 8 when the war was declared. I remember hearing on the radio, the King, His Majesty's government has declared war on Germany. I remember those words. And I was then 44, 45 in Doon School when the war ended. So I lived through the whole of the Second World War. After that there was the Cold War. Then the Cold War almost brought us to the brink of another disaster. But luckily the non-aligned movement, which is now obsolete, but at that time did play an important role. India played an important role in that. But Jawaharlal Nehru was one of the main founders of the non-aligned movement. And I recall meeting President of Indonesia, Sukarno was there, Archbishop Makarios used to come here, President of Egypt used to come here. All these people used to gather here. And I had the pleasure of meeting them at Murti at Panditji's house. But after that, we thought there was going to be a period of peace. In the last century, Guptaji, towards the end of the last century, we thought that globalization was coming. I remember going around the world talking about globalization, how we were going to move from, first of all, to regional associations like the European Union, and then from there to a federation, what Tennyson called the Parliament of Man, the Federation of the World. And we were moving in that direction. But then there was a backlash. There were these so-called black swan events, the election of President Trump of all people in the United States, who was clearly and deadly against globalization. He said, I don't like the word globalization. I'm an American nationalist. I don't like globalization. And as a result of these and other factors, the whole movement towards globalization petered out. My theory was that, like the European Union, we would move towards regional organization. The European Union was an extraordinary miracle. In front of our eyes, the mark disappeared, the lira disappeared, the franc disappeared, a new currency appeared, EU. And you didn't know when you were in Europe which country began where. Whereas previously there were barriers between every country. You had to pay a tax or there was a toll. Now you could travel openly. That itself was a miracle. Because these countries were at each other's throats for 1,000 years. France, Germany and the UK particularly overcame that. So I thought that that would be the model towards which we would move. The European Union, the ASEAN, the SAARC, the NAFTA, various organizations around the world would first of all move for regional cooperation. And then there would be the final movement towards the world. That didn't happen. Even the European Union, because UK for some strange reason, And the others didn't take off. ASEAN is still there, but SARC didn't take off at all. And now we have G20 and G7 and so on. So world peace, I'm afraid, is eluding us. Apart from the war between Ukraine and Russia, which is very strange. They're the same race, the same language, more or less, the same religion. These were the usual areas for war. But yet they are at each other's throats. Thousands of people have been killed on both sides. So world peace, and there are lots of regional wars, particularly in Africa. They're still going on, wars between various countries in Africa. And even in the Balkans, the situation is far from settled. So far from moving towards world peace, we find that we are moving in the opposite direction. Which means that we must strive more. I'm not suggesting that we give up hope. I'm simply pointing out the facts that we have to face. However much we may hope for the opposite. And unity, Gupta ji has quoted the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam concept. When I come to India's cultural heritage, we have a marvelous cultural heritage, of course. One can talk about that for great length. He mentioned Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is a family. Ayam Nija Paroveti, Dharanam Lahu Chedasam, Udara Charita Nam Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And he mentioned the welfare of all beings. Bahujana Sukhaya, Bahujana Hitaya Cha. But our heritage is also full of war. Our two great epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, are wars. Millions of people were killed. Where is the peace? Mahabharata was the greatest disaster to hit India. Because in what happened in Mahabharata was the Kshatriyas, the fighters of the whole of North India perished, killing each other. So that when the Muslim invasions began, we had nothing. We had elephants, that's all. Kahan gaye wo prakshapat, wo brahmastra ityadi? Where was that technology? How did it disappear? It disappeared because of the Mahabharata. So let us be very clear. On the one hand, we have these great concepts. I am a devotee of the Upanishads. The Upanishads are really the high watermark of our culture. There is no war there. There is war in the Vedas. Constant war between the Devas and the Asuras. Constant. Many of the Vedic hymns are praying for victory in war. So there was war in the Vedas, and in the epics there was nothing but war. It is only the Upanishads, the glorious Upanishads in between, that really give us the correct guidance. If you liken the Vedas to the Himalayas, and you fly from here to Calcutta, you fly parallel to the Himalayas. You remember what Kalidas said in Kumar Sambhavam, opening his first verse, Astyuttarasyam dishi devatatma, Himalayo nam nagadhiraja, Purvaha paro toya nidhi vagaya, Sitaha prithipya ivamanagana. If we have to measure the greatness of the world, the only measuring rod can be the Himalayas. As you fly, you will see the peaks, the great peaks. They are the Upanishads. The Vedas is the basis. But these Upanishads, these great texts, which I've spoken about on many occasions and written about, they are remarkable texts. So when we talk about cultural heritage, we've got to remember we have a heritage of war also. Manish ji? युद्ध की परिभाषा कहाँ जाएगी? रामायण में कितने हजारों वानर, नॉट वानर, ये भी गलत बात है. जो वानरों को बंदर कहते हैं ना, इट्स टोटली रॉन्ग. They were a race inhabiting South India. They were highly advanced. They had built cities and they had built bridges. How can you call them बंदर? वो दिल वाक्य से जो हमारे उत्तर भारत के कवि थे, क्योंकि उनका वस्त्र कोई ऐसा होगा पीछे और उनका मुख ऐसे था, उन्होंने उनको बंदर कह दिया और उससे सब बंदर कह रहे हैं. और जब भी रामलीला होती है तो बंदर बन के नाचे. मुझे तो बड़ा भारी गुस्सा चढ़ता है इस बात. बुद्धिमताम वरिष्ठम, हनुमान बंदर थे. मनोजम मारुतुल्य वेगम जितेंद्रिय बुद्धिमताम वरिष्ठम वातात्मजम मुख्यम श्री रामदूतम शरणम प्रपद्ये। ये लोग को उनको बंदर कह सकते हो, ये और ये योद्धा, ये लड़े, अयोध्या से कोई नहीं आया मदद करने के लिए। यही जो दक्षिण भारत के आदिवासी थे, इन्होंने साथ दिया श्री राम का और श्रीलंका के ऊपर चढ़ाई की। तो इसलिए युद्ध की परंपरा भी है हमारे, जिनको बहुत समझते हैं। रामायण में हजारों मारे गए, महाभारत में सबके सब मारे गए। तो ये भी हमें परंपरा, जब हम कल्चरल हेरिटेज कहते हैं तो हमें चयन करना पड़ेगा क्या हम चुनेंगे कल्चरल हेरिटेज में से। भगवत गीता के ऊपर सुना, ये शर्म दिए हमें कुछ कोई प्रकाश देने वाले हैं। मैं ये बहुत बोला हूँ भगवत गीता के ऊपर, नहीं कहूँगा कुछ, लेकिन हमें देखना है कि कहाँ जा रहे हैं। भारतवर्ष में है शांति की भी परंपरा है, शांति पर्व है वेदों में। भगवान बुद्ध यहाँ पैदा हुए क्योंकि शांति का संदेश सारे विश्व में फैला हुआ, आज भी फैला हुआ है। लेकिन वहाँ भी आपको पीपल लाइक दैट पॉल पॉट और मैस मर्डर कम्बोडिया में, कम्बोडिया जितना विशाल मंदिर बनाया है उतना ही दुष्ट उसका वो पॉल पॉट था। इसलिए हमें बहुत ढंग से अपनी जो परंपरा है उसको प्रस्तुत करना है। और आज की परिस्थिति में मुझे बड़ी प्रसन्नता है कि वी आर नाउ प्लेइंग ए पॉजिटिव रोल। G20 की अध्यक्षता हम कर रहे हैं, मोदी जी भी काफ़ी कर रहे हैं, देश विदेश में भी घूम रहे हैं। और मुझे लगता है कि जैसे चीन अग्रसर हो रहा है, चीन ने सऊदी अरब और ईरान के बीच में जो बड़े पुराने शत्रु थे उनके बीच में संधि करवा दी, बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है। इट्स अ बिग अचीवमेंट। वी मस्ट ऑल्सो बिकम मोर एक्टिव। आई थिंक दैट इंडिया कैन प्ले अ वेरी पॉजिटिव रोल। G20 तो ठीक है, हमें मौका मिला है, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट इन आवर ओन राइट वी मस्ट बिकम more active and try and see what we can do. First of all, to stop this terrible war, and then we are in a conflictual relationship with both our neighbors. वो गुटका पॉलिसी, आगे भी शत्रु पीछे भी शत्रु, कैसे, how long will this continue? शत्रु ही करते रहेंगे सारी उम्र में, कोई मित्र भी बनेंगे? इसलिए हमें सोचना है। क्षमा करें, I am saying some things which might surprise you, but I wanted to come down to brass tacks and to make the point that we have this very strong heritage for peace. We also have a very strong heritage for war. We want to choose which path we want to take. As Robert Frost said, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down where as far as I could to where it went in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had really warned them about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had autumn black. Oh, I kept the one for another day, though knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. What road are we going to take, friends? Thank you very much.
Mr. Sanjay Shavan, who retired as Commissioner Central Excise and Customs, and is spiritually and intellectually inclined.
Task was assigned to me by Gupta sir, I think months back, and thereafter I did some running through Bhagavad Gita. As he rightly said, I am indeed spiritually inclined. I have interest in meditation, and with God's grace, with divine grace, I know proper meditation. Even I know meditation, I am not saying for any arrogance. I know the meditation that Bhagavan Sri Krishna taught to Arjuna during the course of Mahabharata. While I'm talking to you, I'll be often talking about divine masters. I feel that I should tell you about divine masters, who they are, because I'm under their control, command, under their training. Who are divine masters? Divine masters are those, a spiritual person is the Siddhas, who have beaten time and space. Time and space is no constraint for them. And further, whatever comes out of their mouth, whatever the desire, that is instantly fulfilled. So nature obeys them. Fortunately, I had chances and I get repeated chances to read through their teachings. And whatever I will be speaking to you today is mainly derived from what they have taught, what they have spoken about. So, it is from their knowledge itself. And then somewhere I have in fact interpolated here and there, but mainly it is through them. Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapters and 700 verses. It is dialogue between Bhagavan Sri Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna was his chief disciple, he was Pandu, you know, all these things you know. And as the Bhagavad Gita starts, I'm not expert in the subject, but still understand the basics of that. They say that Sanjay is narrating to Dhritarashtra and their chariot that he has taken between the two armies, the Kauravas armies and the Pandus armies, and there the dialogue starts between Arjuna and Krishna. I was reading commentary by some, divine master about that. And they say that such a long discourse, such a long teaching would not have taken place in the battlefield where there was battle. They say it is a mental war, mental conditioning of Arjuna. And who is Arjuna? Arjuna is the soul, is the disciple, with the spirit, that is Krishna. Krishna was both is divine as well as he was also the king of Mathura as well. Both the things. So it is a communion between both of them, the chief disciple and the spirit, supreme spirit that is divine, where divine is trying to guide Krishna, divine that is Krishna, is trying to guide his disciple as to how he should progress on yogic path. Basically, it is exposition of yoga. And all, knowledge of cosmos is into this. Leaning upon divine masters only, they say that it is scripture of scriptures, and it is a scripture which is for mankind. It is essence of 4 Vedas. It is essence of 6 systems of Hindu philosophy, and as also of Puranas also. I learned from them itself, maybe I do not know, whether it is known to all or not, that compiler of Gita was Vyas, who was the son of Sage Parasar. And the masters also say that in his last 2.5 years, he lived in Himalayas, where he attuned himself with Krishna, and then he gave this Gita and Krishna to us, Gita and Mahabharata to us. That is what he says. So basically, he says it is the exposition of yoga. How you will proceed on the yogic path. So contrary to the generally held concept that Gita is, or Mahabharata that way, is for war as such, or for war mongering. Reading one commentary by some, saint of, Saint Vivekananda, Saint Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he says, it is not for war mongering, it is for exhorting man to do his duty with his dedication and detachment. That is what he says. I am repeating that it is said that it could not be possible for such a long verse to be done, to be communicated between these two of them when the chariot was between the two armies. That is what they say. So Gita is not for warmongering, it is for yoga as such, it is for your progress in yoga. Why it is the progress of yoga? I had my own honeymoon, or I still have, with yoga. I speak of certain things, you may feel it very, different. That we were created from the divine. Divine Master said that he felt lonely, and that is why he created us, and we all spirit from him. So we are on a sojourn, and we are at the lowest plane on this earth. Higher plane is your astral world and causal world. Those are the higher planes. So divine wants us back to him. There are saints who have fought with divine, that why you created this earth, where people are suffering so much. So in Gita, the teachings which are in Gita, for your spiritual progress, for your union with divine, because you require to go to your home. We come out, I'm here, I'll be here, I may go out some other place after here, but unless and until I go back home, I do not get complete peace. Arjuna is a soul, and it is not soul of Arjuna alone, all souls which are aspiring for development, for merger with the divine, that is what it is being said. Coming back to teachings of Gita, it is for upholding of Dharma. Dharma, I do not mean when it is said Dharma there, when the divine says, whenever there is decline of Dharma, I come to India, I come to Bharatvarsh and try to sustain it, alleviate it, improve it, to guide. And sages and saints have been coming to this as their masters only say, divine masters only say, for guiding humanity. So it is for upholding of Dharma, and it says various paths through which one would connect with the divine, will go divine ward, will go soul ward, will go inward. The moment you go inward by the meditative process and other things, by some methods are said there, but it is not everything is public there. That you fix your eyes here on between the eyebrows, watch your breath and all, but everything is not in the public. But there are schools, certain schools, authorized schools, I will speak to them, authorized teachers, they teach about that. What it says for upholding of Dharma, social order. And all of us are in fact disturbed, everybody is disturbed because of breach of world peace. As Sir said, we are going in the reverse direction because of Ukraine war and other things. But it teaches the moment if its teachings are accepted, ingrained, imbibed by all, there would be peace in the world. Gita is spirituality, it is not religion. It is open to all, and it is the essence of the various prescriptions that are given in various scriptures of other religions. It talks of renunciation. What we mean by renunciation? Whatever we may have here, does it have value? You possess anything? Can you cling to it? You cannot. But the moment you are in a soul state, you are more powerful. Renunciation is there, sannyas is there. It talks about non-injury. Ahimsa it is talking about. Ahimsa is not something which is confined to human beings only. So if there is understanding of teachings of Gita for Ahimsa, would there be war? Why would anybody will go for all those things? The type of things which are happening in the world today? Even other types of things where say, if I use the word exporting of arms, and I will use the word exporting of diseases also. You export by something diseases, make people weak, and then export medicines. That is amounting to exporting of diseases. And this many people are doing, many countries are doing. So that is another type of ahimsa, that is just the opposite of ahimsa. So that ahimsa, that non-injury, as taught in Gita, and as we understand, it is in many places given very clearly in Gita, it extends to all living creatures, that you be non-injurious to all living creatures. What will speak of human beings, human beings. So Gita does teach us how we can achieve peace. It also talks of non-acquisition. It talks of non-acquisition. Okay. We cannot take it in that way. Non-acquisition means we have something, but we are not mentally attached to that. It is only for a particular purpose. If I have money in my account, in my bank, and if I am properly using it, I am not feeling very great that see, this is what I am having. Probably that solves the purpose. It talks of equanimity, being not too happy, not too sad, being of a balanced type, even-minded type. So various verses of Gita talks about these things. And if it is understood, I am again repeating, it is not for Hindus only, the Gita. It is essence of all religions. It is the Holy Testament, or it is like Bible of Christians and other religions also. So I noted certain verses of Gita to talk to you. Chapter 1, verse 35, it speaks of three loks. We are at the lowest strata. Mind it, there is no hell or heaven other than this, where we are. If there is hell, this is the hell. And in any case, we have to go up only. Then also other verses talk about sin will accrue by killing. That is chapter 1, verse 36. Then it also tells that no one can cause the destruction of mortal being. We are all basically souls which cannot be destroyed. It cannot be. So anybody trying to do that is in a wrong perception, wrong mode, and that is something the sooner people understand it, sooner people leave it. As long as somebody is not violating established social order, established legal system, there is no need to control others or destruct others or annihilate others, something which is happening in this world at this time. So there the teachings of Gita become very, very relevant, and it will remain relevant forever. Chapter 2, verse 19, he who thinks that him to be healer and who experiences him as killed, both of them know not. They don't know. They are both ignorant. So what we are doing? Then righteous war, it also speaks of yoga. What is yoga? Yoga, I spoke a little while ago, that purpose of life is to go back home. That is yoga, purpose of our existence here on earth, to do good work and to go back home. So the process of yoga. So yoga, Divine Master also said, yoga is both the path and the end of the path as well. I tried for yoga by certain methods, by meditative methods. Meditative methods, if we know the authorized meditative methods, they are the fastest route for yoga. And that yoga was taught by Bhagavan Sri Krishna to Arjuna at the time of Mahabharata war, in the Gita. Then it also talks of selfless and detached action, sameness in all, even-mindedness, that is equanimity, being of even-minded, non-injury, no hatred, no compassion. I have noted some of the chapters and the verses. Chapter 12, verse 14, no hatred, have compassion. If we think here right itself about compassion, if I speak about compassion itself, we are a child. We have a father. All of us have a common father who is there. What is he? Why we pray to him? Why we love him? Why we go to temples? Because we feel that he will help us slightly. because he is compassionate. And we being his part, we are split from him, we being his part, we are smaller parts of him, we are same like him only. Only thing is that we need to develop ourselves through the process of meditation, other processes. Meditation is the fastest one, that is what I repeatedly say that. So that compassion is something which is not negotiable, if we are to live. So this is also Gita talks about, and same treatment to those living and hitting, those who are loving you or hitting you, same treatment. And compassion against chapter 16 verse 2 talks about compassion. So knowledge of Gita, which is scripture for mankind, will help us transgress all these mental seed tendencies, all these confusions, and eventually go toward peace, to understanding, to go to our home, and treating everybody as brothers and sisters, as our motto is there. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is our motto of the foundation that we have formed. So this is so Gita, teaching of Gita, propagation of Gita, as we hear it, will lead to peace in the world. More we understanding. Even the keeping of Gita, reading few pages, if somebody does not understand also or does not like it also, even if you will start teaching, his life will start changing. So with these words, I'm open to questions, because I was going slightly digressing. I was extremely distressed by certain things happening in India. One of them, which most distressed me, was the mushrooming of Sam Gurus, fake Gurus, or Pasai Gurus. Because of that, I thought I'll like a book in which I'll clarify everything. And that happened. So that's what I have done. So with these words, I'll close, and I'm open to questions when the floor is open for questions. Thanks a lot.
Now I request Dr. Merchant, who is the General Secretary, Temple of Understanding, to say a few words.
Shri M.C. Gupta sir, President of the Global Socio Economic Foundation, our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Karan Singh ji, our co-speakers, Shri Sanjay Sharan ji, my Rabbi Ezekiel Isaac Malikar ji, all of you are in fact very distinguished who have come here for this third program of the Global Socio Economic Foundation. And I have Mr. Rishi, who is the Executive Director. Rajesh Mehta ji, I am thankful to you for keeping us informed and bringing us together. Actually, the subject of war, peace, and how the whole processes are actually bringing us into a realization, because the words Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we have been invoking. They are of course part of that holy shlok of the Mahopanishad. But in terms of reality, we are not able to perceive the reality itself. So today, with the presidency of G20 and then the new interpretation of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in terms of one planet, one family, and one future, the way our Honorable Prime Minister has articulated, should be a singular moment for us to rethink. Because when our Rishi Munis gave us this concept, they used the analogy of the family, because that was understood at that time. The world, nobody knew much. People were mostly confined to the villages, some forests. There was no such, it was a vastly different world. So today's reality, as very succinctly and very eloquently expressed by Dr. Karan Singh, that how the journey of humanity over thousands of years, millennia, has brought us to a point where on the one side, we are on the verge of self-annihilation, because according to the Security Board of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, who have a doomsday clock, they move that clock, the hands of the clock, every year in the month of January. During the pandemic time, it was 120 seconds to doomsday, and last year it became 100 seconds because of the intensity of climate change. And this year, when they moved it to 90 seconds to doomsday, they gave 3 reasons. They said still the climate change is a very uncertain, it gives us lots of uncertainty, and it's going to only get worse. Then the second reason, they said nuclear war. It can happen accidentally or it can be deliberately. Because the third point which they added this year was disruptive technologies. So today there is a lot of hue and cry about this new thing. What is that? That chat GPT. So the artificial intelligence, how it's going to shape us. So here, as people who believe in culture, spirituality, who values, we know that any piece of technology, if it is not controlled by a value system, spirituality, then it can become a Frankenstein and go out of hand. So for us, when we are talking about peace, we need to understand this. And I, for one, believe that education is very powerful medium. We have a number of people who are deeply involved in the educational process, who look at the children, the plight of children, the young people, and we need to find ways to engage them and tell them that you need to deeply introspect and reflect as to what kind of a career you would like to have. It should not be a career just for material gain, becoming a big person, dominating huge corporations and things like that, but living a life of coherence. Because spiritually, I am of course member of the Baha'i community, but here I am representing the Temple of Understanding. Again, I am very thankful that Dr. Karan Singh has been our guiding light. He in fact is also the chair of the international board. It's one of the oldest interfaith movements of the world, 62 years plus. And the founder was just a simple housewife, but very passionate. And we know that today in India also we are facing a major challenge, that people have not understood that religion was never intended to be a cause of conflict. It's supposed to bring hearts together. It's supposed to make us more compassionate and humane. Science is a very powerful medium for transformation because it gives us technology. So here, all of you are very distinguished. If I were to take names of each one of you and your contribution to the society, the whole thing will be there, will be taken up in the limited time. So one very important thing we need to understand is that there are 2 processes at work. So there is one process, one set of forces that are bringing down structures which are archaic. They are not relevant. On the other hand, there are forces that are also creating a lot of awakening. So in terms of the Indian cultural and spiritual ethos, we have that cyclical worldview that the spiritual forces are enshrined. They come from the Vedas, they've gone through the Upanishadic trajectory, and in the discourses, and then so these battlefields, I would take the analogy the way Gandhiji explained. He said whether it happened literally or not, but at least we know that each human being has a daily struggle. So you are having a daily struggle. Which path? The 2 paths that the poem of Robert Frost, same is there, I believe, in Upanishads. You have the path that is the Shreyas and the Prayas, I believe, in the Upanishad, that is that you come to a fork. Which one you will take, the path of desires or the path of blissful joy? So the true reality of every human being is spiritual. And it is on the basis of these moral imperatives that a profound transformation has to happen. So long as we are not awakened to that reality, the forces of destruction will continue to fuel and accelerate the process of collapse. And we know that matter is indestructible. The transformation happens, and eventually we human beings are destined to create a world that will be a world of happiness, peace, harmony, unity in diversity. So that's my conviction. And if I write the spiritual texts, then I'm convinced that this is the transition phase. There was one very interesting statement that when Adam and Eve were driven out of paradise, so Adam told Eve, "My dear, we live in the age of transition." They were driven out of paradise, sent to earth, but he put it that way. So as a person who has still a lot of positivity, I feel that we should not get too much carried away by the gloom and doom, but be hopeful. And in that context, I, as a Baha'i, believe that what Baha'u'llah said, a new life is in this age, stirring within all the peoples of the earth, and yet none had discovered it. So whatever spiritual discussions we have, or the cultural debates we have, this process of discovery is going to be a responsibility of every human being. We can't delegate this task. The spiritual discovery is the gift that every human being possesses, because the gift of understanding, the gift of the rational soul impels us. And unfortunately, the vast majority of the human race don't have that luxury, because they are in a survival mode for roti, kapda, makan, swasthya, just making ends meet. But those fortunate small minority of us who have at least not to get carried away by this daily survival mode, we are able to reflect. And this daily reflection can help us to understand. And so for me, the war in Europe is not something that is out of place. It was there in making, because it was a materialistic interpretation of reality. And the first chance they got, it triggered off. And it's been going on since 2008. It's not simply that 1 year ago that this war has happened. And there are a lot of historical information that justify and explain why the way the leaders are behaving the way they are. And I believe that India, with its great civilizational ethos, is doing the right thing. And our Honorable Prime Minister, when he has given this call for one planet, one people, one family, one future, if it's understood positively, it can not only help to ease the many tensions within the country, but also help us get a much better and a more respectable position among the community of nation states. So thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking time. These are some reflections.
Thank you, Dr. West. Rabbi Malika, the priest of the synagogue, to share his thoughts with us.
That I consider myself very fortunate. I'm sitting next to Dr. Karan Singh, who has been my role model, and I always consider him as my guide and philosopher. So thank you very much, and I seek your blessings, sir. About this topic, I'm very much happy to know that when we are talking about the world peace and unity, India's cultural heritage, and I would like to say that I represent the microscopic minority, that is the Jews of India. There are now only, as against in 1935 we had 50,000 Jews. Now there are only 5,000 Jews left over in India, and of course by the end of this century I don't know how many Jews will be left. But why I say so? Because I remember when I was in Belur Math, I addressed the congregation by saying Shalom. Shalom means peace unto you. So one of the elderly lady got up from the audience. She said, Rabbi, your Shalom has Om in it. So I said, of course. There are so many similarities and commonalities between all the religions. And we have a synagogue in Delhi near Khan Market. And to tell you about the history of Jews, Jews have been living in India for the last 2000 years. And if I say that India is the only country in the world where Jews have never faced anti-Semitism but persecution. That is a Indian culture and heritage, what we call it Bharatiya Sanskriti. Because not only Jews have taken shelter, but there are out of 9 major religions, there are 5 major religions have taken shelter. Baha'i, of course, Dr. Merchant is here, Islam, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, Islam, and they have been living in harmony without coming into conflict with each other. So what we talk about the, Atite Deva Bhava and Vasudeva Kutumbakar, we could see. And to tell you that, of course, you may be knowing, as Dr. Sir was telling, during the Second World War, how the 6 million Jews were killed, and at that time in Poland, like a Schindler, one of the very philanthropist person, he arranged a ship, and he said 500 women and 200 children. He says, get into the ship and go anywhere, but save your life, otherwise you will be killed. Because Poland, Hungary, Denmark, all these were the places for the, what is a Holocaust. And that they went from Iraq, Iran, all European countries. Then their ship anchored near Bombay. At that time, British government refused. It says, no, we will not allow you. So, who came to know? The Jam Sahib, Digvijay Singh from Jamnagar. He came to know. He came to Bombay. He says, come all of you, come to Jamnagar, stay with us in Gujarat. And he has sent all those 200 children to the army school. And in Jamnagar, those people went back after the Second World was over. They came here again in the 1988 and erected a monument there. And again they came in the year 2000 when there was a earthquake in Gujarat, and they adapted 2 villages for rehabilitation. And in Poland, the Jamnagar, this Jam Sahib is known as a Bapuji. And there are many streets which have been named. What I am to tell you that during this time, Second World War, nobody helped, but the India open-heartedly, saved that life. And about to tell you about the Judaism in a short, because time consent is there, that what we believe, it is not only the peace, we want sustainable peace with justice. Peace has no value if there is no justice. And I have selected this one. We say peace with justice. Justice shall you pursue, that you may live in the land which God gives you. You shall not pervert judgment, nor favor persons, neither shall you take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. Hear the causes between your brothers, judge righteously your brothers and the strangers. You shall hear the small and great alike. You shall not be afraid of the face of any man. Robe not the weak because he is weak, neither crush the poor in thy midst. Seek justice, relieve the oppressed, protect the fatherless, defend the cause of the widow. Hate evil and love God is good, yet establish justice. For righteousness and justice are the foundations of peace. God shall judge between the nations, and they shall beat their swords and plowshares, and their spears into pruning forks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. The Lord will break the bow and the sword and the battle out of the land. So these are the verses of the Bible. And as you know, someone asked Rabbi Hillel, what is Torah in one sentence? And Rabbi Hillel said, what is hateful and hurtful to you, do not do to others. Because why we are not having the peace, everlasting peace? Not that peace at the time of the ceasefire, what is happening in Israel, because I go very often to Israel, and every time when I go, and at night time there was a siren, I had to undergo the bypass just to save, it's now habit now every day there. So, what is hateful or hurtful to you? So it is said that, you can, if you attack anyone with the weapons, that wound could be held up. But if you say bad words, if you are not able to appreciate, do not use the bad words. Because हमारा जो मुख है, ये ब्रह्मांड है, और शब्द है वो ब्रह्मास्त्र है. Because if I say something wrong for anyone, so better, if you are not able to appreciate, better not to say anything. And what is said, the 10 commandments, the first 5 commandments, your duties, obligations to God. But the next 5 commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not stand false witness, thou shalt not covet. Your duties toward the society, toward the nations. And it is also said in the Leviticus, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So of course this is given about the full of righteousness, and I would like to say that peace is one of the most desirable fruits of the salvation of all the religions. And just to sum up, we would like to say we should reaffirm and rededicate ourselves to the universal values of love, brotherhood, compassion, selfless service. We must reassert the principles of peace and communal harmony. At the end, I would say, oh Lord, you taught us how to fly in the air like a bird. You taught us how to swim under the water like a fish. But God kindly teach us how to walk on this earth in brotherhood, in peace. Sangha chatvam samvandatam savo manasi vichanatam.
ईश्वर, धर्म और संस्कृति की नई व्याख्या की है, जिसमें आप दूसरे समय जब समय देंगे तो मैं चर्चा करूंगा. सिर्फ इतना ही कहता हूं आज कि ईश्वर, हमने कहा है कि सूर्य, चंद्रमा, तारे, धरती और आकाश, ये सोर्स ऑफ पावर हैं, शक्ति हैं, और इन्हीं के कारण हम लोग जीव में प्रवृत्त होते हैं और आते हैं धर्म. ये सब के लिए बराबर है, उसमें कोई ये धर्म वो धर्म नहीं है. दूसरा, धर्म जो है ये सबके लिए बराबर है. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आपका धर्म ये है, मेरा धर्म ये है, तो धर्म है क्या? तो धर्म ये है कि जो शक्ति, ईश्वर की शक्ति के बाद माँ के पेट से निकले, आपको दूध मिले, खाना मिला, दवा मिली, उसमें हवा है, जल है, अग्नि है, अन्न है, वनस्पतियाँ हैं, जो भोजन का भी काम करती है और दवा का भी. ये सबके लिए बराबर है. एक मोहल्ले में हम रह रहे हैं, उसी मोहल्ले में मुसलमान है, उसी में हिंदू है, भाई है, उसी में क्रिश्चियन भी हैं, तो एक ही दुकान से सब सामान उठाते हैं, सब लेते हैं, सब खाते हैं. तो धर्म है वो सबके लिए बराबर है. वो जो जिसमें जान है, जो प्राणी है, उसमें वो सबके लिए बराबर है, वो धर्म है. और जो इंसेक्ट हो, चिड़िया हो, पक्षी हो, जो भी हो, सब में एक इंस्टिंक्ट है जिसको आपको पीस के माध्यम से करना है मनुष्यों के लिए, कि लड़ने का इंस्टिंक्ट जो दिया हुआ है बीइंग में, जो प्राणी है उसमें लड़ने का इंस्टिंक्ट दिया हुआ है. 2 भैंसें लड़ रही थी, मैं जा रहा था एक जगह, बैठ गया देखने के लिए. लोग क्या देख रहे हैं? वो ये देख रहे हैं कि हमको तो कुछ पद चाहिए, प्रतिष्ठा चाहिए, पैसा चाहिए, तो हम लड़ते हैं. ठीक है, ये भैंसें क्यों लड़ रही है? ये गोट से गोट लड़ता है, मुर्गा से मुर्गा लड़ रहा है, चींटी से चींटी लड़ रही है, तो उनको क्या चाहिए? तो इसके लिए ये है कि धर्म इसलिए एक है. अब ये जो उसके बाद है संस्कृति, क्योंकि चर्चा बाद में करेंगे नेक्स्ट टाइम. ठीक है, संस्कृतियाँ जो लास्ट में है कि जो माँ ने खाना खिलाया वो आपका भोजन, माँ ने जिस भाषा बात की आपसे वो आपकी संस्कृति, और जहाँ जन्म हुआ आपकी मातृभूमि. तो इसमें यह है कि उस मानवीय भाषा बात की, उसका परिमार्जित हुआ और फिर बुक्स बने, जो भी बना, वेद हो, कुरान हो, उपनिषद हो, कुरान हो, बाइबल हो, सब बना उसी से। तो उसमें जो है वो संस्कृति जो झगड़ा चल रहा है।
डॉक्टर पाठक, बहुत धन्यवाद। डॉक्टर साहब को जाना है।
ठीक है।
आई नाउ रिक्वेस्ट एयर मार्शल नरेश वर्मा।
मैं एक छोटा सा सवाल पूछ।
आप जानते हैं ना कि बिंदेश्वर बाबू सुलभ शौचालय के प्रवर्तक हैं। इन्होंने जो समाज का काम किया उनको बधाई देनी चाहिए। कई वर्षों से इन्होंने ये नई उपलब्धि दी हमारे समाज
टू
में।
सम अप एंड move a vote of thanks.
Honorable Dr. Karan Singh ji and Sri MC Gupta, Sanjay ji, Rabbi Ezekiel and Dr. Merchant. Actually, let me say that I am the victim of that 11th commandment which MC Gupta ji mentioned. Today I got caught because Mr. Ogra, who was supposed to speak, did not reach. But it's a privilege to extend a vote of thanks, and it's always a pleasure to listen to the pearls of wisdom that flow from the mouth of Dr. Karan Singh. He spoke of the strange and troubled times, and he said past is refusing to fade away. No one imagined the war in Europe. It's so true. And he mentioned about the backlash. Although we were expecting globalization, but there was a backlash. And what he mentioned about ex-President Trump saying, it reminded me of what Mr. Abid Hussain wrote in his book. And he said that it's a tribalization which we are experiencing, and ethno-nationalism which is rearing its head. Dr. Karan Singh also mentioned that we are moving in appropriate direction, and as always he has a unique touch and unique interpretation and unique light which he throws. And when he said that Mahabharata and our epics and all full of wars. So, and then he said what road we are going to take. Dr. Sanjay Sharan also spoke of the teachings of Gita teachings for union with divine, upholding of dharma and social order. He spoke of ahimsa, and at a very, having been from the military, I really could, what he said about exporting of arms. I think I could fully understand what you are trying to say, and how this export of arms is, the antithesis of world peace. Dr. Merchant, of course, I have been hearing him on many occasions. He gave the analogy of the family, today's reality, and he spoke of issues like climate change, nuclear war. Then he gave a light of hope. He said education is a powerful medium and living life in coherence. Religion was never meant to be a cause for conflict. And he mentioned, we human beings are destined to create a world of peace, harmony, unity. And this is an age of confrontation, but what Prophet Baha'u'llah said, a new light which no one has discovered. I'm sure it is, and as he mentioned, it is the responsibility of every human being to discover that. Rabbi Ezekiel's words were really powerful, and what he said, Shalom, has Om in it. What I say is that there is a commonality in all the religions and all the teachings. Peace with justice, that is the concept which he expounded. It has been a wonderful exposition by the eminent speakers, and not only the eminent speakers, I think the entire The audience also is very eminent. At the end, just a thanks, big thanks to Sri MC Gupta with his perseverance, and this is the third function he has organized. I want to just say one thing, Dr. Saab ko jana hai, der ho rahi hai, but one thing I'll say about his dogged perseverance and how this foundation came about. When I was director IIC, he started this in 2015. Pursued, kept pursuing it, and finally it saw the light in 2022. So thank you, Gupta Sahab. It is your efforts which give us this opportunity to listen to eminent scholars like Dr. Karan Singh. Just to sum up, I just want to say what is about global peace. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Peace is not absence of conflict, it is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. Thank you everybody for